Hey everybody, welcome back to Yarn as a Second Language. Today we have a story for you all. Today's story is chapter 1 of a 5-part series called The Unraveled Clue, a crochet mystery, twisted ending. Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to be crocheting a small swatch using the bar stitch. This is not a step-by-step tutorial. If you need one or want one of those for the bar stitch, I will have a link in the description below, and it will show you step-by-step on how to crochet the bar stitch. It is a very cool textured pattern. Most people like it for washcloths, so if you're interested in that, please check it out. And also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. Also, share this video and hit that like button. It does help us out quite a bit. All right, so let's go ahead and cue the intro. And again, let me know in the comment section if you like this or not. And yeah, let's cue the intro and let's go ahead and get into it.
The Unraveled Clue, a crochet mystery, twisted ending, episode 1. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and thick forest, there was a little yarn shop called the Cozy Skein. It was a beloved spot, known for its vibrant colors and the gentle hum of conversation that filled its air. The shop was owned by Eliza, a kind-hearted woman in her mid-60s, who had a special talent for creating intricate crochet patterns. Her skills were so admired that people traveled from neighboring towns just to buy her handmade designs. One chilly autumn evening, as the last golden rays of sunlight filtered through the windows, Eliza was preparing to close up shop for the day. She had just finished a beautiful crochet shawl made of the finest merino wool and shades of emerald green and deep gold. As she folded the shawl and placed it on the counter, the doorbell chimed, signaling a last-minute customer. To her surprise, it was Detective Harris, the town's sharp and dependable investigator. He wasn't known to be a man of many words, but his presence always carried weight. "Eliza," he said, removing his hat, folding it in his hands. "I need your help." Eliza's brow furrowed with concern. "What's the matter, Detective?" "There's been a break-in at the museum," he explained, "and something valuable was stolen. A rare manuscript from the 18th century written in ancient code. It's irreplaceable, and we believe the thief has hidden it somewhere in town." Eliza nodded, listening carefully. "The thing is," he continued, "the only clue we found at the scene was this." He pulled a small, neatly crocheted bookmark from his pocket and handed it to Eliza. Eliza's eyes widened as she examined the bookmark. It was intricately made with a pattern she recognized immediately. It was one of her own designs, a unique combination of stitches that she had only ever shared with a few people. "This is my pattern," she whispered, "but I've only given it to a handful of my regular customers." Detective Harris nodded. "I was hoping you might know who could have made this. It's the only lead we have." Eliza thought for a moment, then glanced at the shawl she had just completed. A sudden realization dawned on her. The colors in this bookmark, they match the skeins I sold to Mrs. Peterson last week. She's been working on a project using these exact shades. Mrs. Peterson was an elderly woman who lived alone on the outskirts of town. She was known for her reclusive nature, but had a passion for crochet that rivaled even Eliza's. She often visited the Cozy Skein to chat about new patterns and buy supplies. Detective Harris and Eliza decided to pay Mrs. Peterson a visit. As they approached her small cottage, they noticed the lights were on, and a soft glow illuminated the windows. They knocked on the door, and after a moment, Mrs. Peterson answered, looking surprised to see them. "Eliza? Detective? What brings you here at this hour? She asked, her voice quivering slightly. We need to ask you about a project you've been working on, Eliza said gently, holding up the bookmark. Mrs. Peterson's eyes widened. I didn't mean any harm, she stammered, her hands trembling. I just couldn't resist the challenge. Confused, Eliza and Detective Harris exchanged a glance. Mrs. Peterson sighed and motioned for them to come inside. She led them into her living room where, on a table, lay the stolen manuscript, its pages open and filled with cryptic symbols. I found this at the museum last week, Mrs. Peterson confessed. I've always been fascinated by ancient codes and puzzles. When I saw the manuscript, I knew I had to decipher it. I never intended to steal it, but I just got carried away. Eliza's heart softened as she saw the genuine remorse in Mrs. Peterson's eyes. The elderly woman had simply been drawn in by her love for puzzles and the thrill of the mystery. She had used the bookmark as a placeholder while she tried to decode the manuscript. Detective Harris, though stern, understood as well. Mrs. Peterson, you will need to return the manuscript to the museum. I'm sure they'll be lenient if you explain the situation. With a heavy heart, Mrs. Peterson agreed. She handed the manuscript to Detective Harris and promised to make amends. But as Eliza and the detective prepared to leave, something caught Eliza's eye. A small box, tucked under Mrs. Peterson's armchair, had a familiar pattern on it. It was a crochet pattern, but not just any pattern. One Eliza had designed years ago, a prototype she never released. Mrs. Peterson? Eliza said cautiously, pointing to the box. Where did you get that? Mrs. Peterson's face turned pale, and she quickly moved to block the box from view. Oh, that's just an old project. Nothing special. But Eliza wasn't convinced. She walked over and carefully opened the box, revealing several crochet items, each more intricate than the last. As she sifted through them, her breath caught when she found something at the bottom. A small notebook filled with detailed sketches and notes in her handwriting. Mrs. Peterson, these are my designs, Eliza said, her voice shaking. These patterns I never shared with anyone. How did you get them? Mrs. Peterson's composure broke. I didn't mean to, Eliza. I found your old notebooks at the town's library charity sale years ago. I was inspired by your work. I've been recreating them ever since. Detective Harris looked at Mrs. Peterson with new suspicion. You said you found the manuscript last week, but it seems like you've been hiding more than that. Eliza, still processing the betrayal, turned to leave when Mrs. Peterson suddenly bolted towards the door, knocking over the box in her haste. Detective Harris grabbed her before she could escape, but in the chaos, something else spilled out of the box. A small, worn key with the museum's emblem on it. Detective Harris picked it up, frowning. Mrs. Peterson, you didn't just find that manuscript, did you? You had access to the museum for a while. Mrs. Peterson, realizing the game was up, slumped in defeat. I've been copying their archives for years. The manuscript was just the latest piece. I couldn't decode it on my own, so I brought it home. The detective secured the key and turned to Eliza. It seems Mrs. Peterson's fascination with puzzles led her down a darker path than we thought. She's been stealing from the museum's archives, using your designs as cover. Eliza felt a mix of sadness and anger. Mrs. Peterson, whom she thought of as a friend, had been deceiving her for years, but there was also relief in knowing the truth. As Detective Harris led Mrs. Peterson away, Eliza gathered the scattered designs and notebooks. She would return them to their rightful place at the museum where they belonged. But as she walked back to her shop, a new question gnawed at her. If Mrs. Peterson had been stealing designs from the museum, could there be others involved? And what other secrets have been hidden in Willow Creek? The mystery, it seemed, was far from over, and Eliza, with her sharp mind and talent for detail, knew she would have to unravel every stitch to get to the bottom of it.
Make sure you come back next week for Chapter 2. Like I said, this is going to be a 5-part series, and trust me, you will not want to miss an episode. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, share the video, come back next week so you can get Chapter 2. I promise you, it's only going to get better. I'll see you guys at the next video. Adios.